take a seat, and welcome to Sit Down. Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the Sit Down today. We've got a very special guest. This guest is one that is, well, who am I going to introduce her? She's my mom. So you're going to get to a little insight of the relationship in my life that has lasted the longest. It is probably the strongest one, but I'm pretty excited that we get to sit down and chat. So.
Well, I said that I wouldn't come on until I was like your 50th guest, and here I am.
Number 2.
Yeah.
So I know
7th episode though.
Seventh episode. Yeah, you weren't episode 1 or 2. My mom and I have a pretty special relationship. We're going to get into a little bit of her story and I guess our story. A lot of people have been asking a long time for this one though.
Am I your most requested guest?
Yes, and it's not even on the podcast side, but with speaking engagements. People all the time want to hear your perspective coming with my perspective, because I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate with the mother side of trauma. And I started this a few months ago now with the intention of finding overcomers, and I think without even realizing it, I had one of the biggest overcomers in my life right here. And so I'm excited for people to...
One of the best compliments you've ever given me, Hunter.
Yeah, easy now.
Thanks.
We're 3 minutes into it. But I'm excited for people to hear some of the things that you've gone through, that we've gone through, and hopefully they can take something from it and learn from it. So we're sitting in Northwood, North Dakota.
Yes.
Just a few miles down the road from where it all started for you. You're a Grand Forks kid.
I am.
Grand Forks Central. You were not a Knight though, or were you a Knight?
I was. So it's unique because my siblings all went to Northwood here where we live today. But I went to Grand Forks because my parents owned a business in Grand Forks. My siblings were younger than me. So my parents always had the plan that my family farm, my parents took over my mom's family farm. So the farm was at Annetta, North Dakota, that I would graduate from high school. I was pretty established in Grand Forks.
Yep.
So the plan always was that my siblings would then go to Northwood. And that is what happened. So yeah, we went back and forth from the farm to Grand Forks. But yeah, I grew up on Belmont Road in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And my parents had a downtown business. And my parents were 20 when they got married and had me in their early 20s and then didn't have more children until their 30s. So we had this like gap of Grand Forks life, and then my siblings all were in elementary school when the flood happened in the 90s. So that is how we have the Northwood and Grand Forks. But yes, I started at Grand Forks Central, and this is when mascots used to change.
Yeah.
So we were the Grand Forks Central Redskins, and then we changed. They didn't decide what their name would be, and so we were the Grand Forks Central Maroon and Gray. And I know I wasn't on the team, but in 1994, the girls basketball team went to state. And I remember people held up blow-up color crayons because we were just like...
Just maroon and gray. It reminds me of the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
And they were the Washington football team.
Yep.
And now they're the Commanders. Kind of similar with Grand Forks Central. You do have a Grand Forks Central story, though, that needs to be recorded.
I don't know which stories you're going to throw at me. I'm going
to throw some at you.
We should disclose on purpose. We did not practice or talk about any of this.
Completely off the hoof.
Because I told you, I just think that we'll have better answers if we don't.
Okay, so Grand Forks Central and Red River. For the people that aren't from North Dakota, there is like
99.9.
Most people that listen to this are not from North Dakota. But where my mom grew up, there are 2 major high schools, and
still not very major, but
hockey is the sport of choice in that town.
For some,
it's the biggest sport because of UND hockey.
It is, yeah.
And so the Grand Forks Central Red River high school hockey rivalry is a big deal.
Story you're
and you led some student engagement at the games.
Behind the scenes.
Yes. And so there's a jersey hanging up in one of our closets. I don't know, maybe it's in Elizabeth's closet, but It
You used
says,
to wear it.
yeah, it's a sweet jersey, and it's got 97 on the back for the year that you graduated, right?
Yes.
And it says what? What's the name on the
I
back of
think
it?
it says Luke's or something like that from my maiden name.
Okay.
But this is the short version, and that is, there's probably retired administration from Grand Forks Central that's going to find out what happened today. Well, I know the retired administrators that are going to possibly listen, but I was the president of like the pep club, or I was in the pep club, and which was, for those of you that now, I think it's more the student council that organizes. Our daughters organize, but we organize like fun student body, student led engagement at games. So people to show up and themes and that type of thing. And seniors we always got hockey jerseys, custom made hockey jerseys, and we wore them to games.
Yeah.
And so it had a graduating year, our nickname, and we were playing. So just two high schools, and they're not major. There's just Grand Forks Central.
They're the biggest
Red
in the
River.
state. Yeah. The biggest league in the state.
No, but North Dakota is it's a small state in terms of people, and we're just kind of one big community. And so but Grand Forks is on the north end, and it's where the Grand Forks Air Force Base at the time had a lot more people. We had a lot of diversity in our school, and Red River was considered on the south end. I think people from Grand Forks would still say it is this way. Red River's on the south end and just a little bougier. And I lived right on the line, on the high school line. So a lot of my friends I grew up with actually went to Red River. And I just suggested to a boy in my class that I knew would possibly do it. I'll leave him off the pod. But at the time, there used to be a lot of pet stores around. People had pet stores. And I didn't know this at the time until you went to college with somebody who had a pet snake. But the reason pet stores had rats at pet stores was to feed snakes. But I didn't know that at the time. Pet stores had rats in them. And so I just suggested to a classmate of mine that he and other boys go to the pet store and purchase rats.
Why would you purchase rats though? What's
Because we would call Red River the Red River Rats instead of the Red River Rough Riders, and we called them river rats. So I just suggested that they could bring live rats in their jackets to the game. Just made the suggestion. I didn't buy any, and I didn't bring any.
So that's why there was rats in 96, 97 at the hockey game.
Yeah, very intense rivalry. And we were in what is no longer Old Ingolstadt Arena. And yes, I had just bought it was like the Halloween store. I had purchased plastic rats. So I had actually gone back in the day, you could go to Hardee's or Burger King and get free helium to blow up balloons, which again would never happen in this day and age. So my girlfriends and I, we went to the fast food chain to like get roast beef sandwiches and free helium to blow up enough balloons to lift up the rat. So we all walked in following our band into Old Ingolstadt Arena in Grand Forks, North Dakota. We then released the balloons in front of the Red River parents with the plastic rat, which the Red River parents thought it was a real rat, and it wasn't. It was just a plastic rat I bought at the Halloween store. And then, yes, during a break or in between periods, there were some specific boys that didn't play hockey that threw live rats onto the ice.
And then also released some in the Red River student section.
Yes, onto the ground.
And
none of us got suspended.
You remember you told me a story one time that the jerseys that you guys would make, you wanted to put Rat Patrol on the back.
Yes. So we put Brat Patrol.
You put Rat Patrol and then duct tape over the beat.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
smart.
So we did walk in with Brat Patrol jerseys, but we had duct tape.
Nice.
And it said
I like it.
Brat Patrol. And so the next morning, I remember it very clearly. Mr. Opstall, Mr. Kosowski, shout out. It was very loud on the school announcements the next day. What a poor display of sportsmanship that was.
That's right. But hey,
nobody got hurt. I mean, some rats got hurt.
Yeah.
But
the
that was
rivalry
it.
Runs deep.
The podcast, or we should note on this podcast that the Grand Forks pet stores were sold out of rats. We actually heard that from other people at the game that night. Yeah, it was one of my finer moments of high school. And let's be honest, I'm just so thankful we didn't have social media.
Yeah, that's a good point. That probably would have gone viral.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have wanted to be known
No,
for that.
that's probably true. You don't want to be known.
Not one of my prouder moments
Congrats.
because, again, some of my best friends really did go to Red River, but it was a hockey rivalry. And if you grow up anywhere with small sport, small school rivalries, community rivalries, and it was, looking back at it, it was pretty harmless, but
Yeah.
it was an epic memory.
So hockey was a big deal, but your sport was track and field. I mean, you did other sports, but
I did.
how did that kind of become, when did you find your love for track and field? When did that kind of become one of your passions?
I was raised in Grand Forks right after my dad had a big college career at the University of North Dakota in basketball. So I don't have regrets, by the way, for counting so's. I just had one. Hunter and I like to critique our speaking. So
Yeah, she is one of my biggest speaking coaches. And so she goes, literally off camera before we start, she goes, how many ahs and ums are you going to have today? I'm like, well, how many so's are you going to have today? So
we're working on always improving ourselves.
I guess so.
And my dad had a significant University of North Dakota basketball career, and they had a lot of winning teams. And so people just knew me as Fred Lucan's daughter, and I was going to be a basketball player. And if I were to do that again, I should have worked harder at specific things in my life, but I was a little bit rebellious. And so I found track and field in 7th grade because my life science teacher had me stand up, and he called roll call. I was from the smallest elementary school in Grand Forks, North Dakota, which we just had one class of each elementary. And I went to South Junior High at the time, South Middle School. Now, it was in the old part of Grand Forks that got washed away kind of in the flood. But he just said, Lukens, Catherine, and then he had me stand up. He said, "Are you Fred's daughter?" And I was like, yes. First day of 7th grade, I was very awkward. I was the tallest kid in the 7th grade.
We might need to throw a picture of you in 7th grade up.
My mom, I'm sure, has a picture. I have permed hair. My grandma used to perm my hair with home perms. She called them permanents at the farm. Home perm and a sprue bag. Those, I guess, are coming back in. Walked to 7th grade with my other friends from Lincoln, and my life science teacher had me stand up, which I was very awkward. I remember my mom telling me in my 7th grade sports physical that I should always remember my sports physical because I would want to talk about it for the rest of my life. And I remember being embarrassed, but I was 5'8", 103. And so I was very awkward looking, and I just wanted to be different. And anyone who's parented or been a junior high, middle school kid can relate to that. I was taller than the boys. Thankfully, by 9th grade, the boys grew. But I was tall. I wore a size 11 shoe. That teacher said, you could be a Division I discus thrower. And I didn't even know what a discus was. But I went home. I actually probably thought a discus was a shot put. And I went home from the first day of 7th grade. And all I heard was Division I discus thrower. And I went home and I told my parents at supper that night that my life science teacher in 7th grade said I could be a Division I discus thrower. And my dad started laughing, which as a parent, I completely understand. And I wasn't very good. I wasn't just a natural athlete, and neither are you and our kids. We work hard. And so I found that passion really by having a track club of older mentors. And Grand Forks, North Dakota at the time, in the very small world of track and field, we were the premier program in the country. And it started in the 80s and into the 90s, into the early 2000s. For the course of a couple decades, there were many young women that got Division I track and field scholarships in throwing, and we had a track club that was just throwers.
Go down the list of some of those throwers that you.
Oh, I'm gonna leave them all out. If I start name dropping, I'm gonna leave them out. But just like, for instance, in my class, there was Jackie Myers from Red River, who was my age, and Mandy Olson from Thompson, and me. So we were all the same age. And Jackie went to North Carolina, and Mandy went to Louisiana Tech, and I went to Georgia. So there was just this level of And obviously college coaching and recruiting was very different then.
Yeah.
And it was paper based, and we got phone calls and we had answering machines and things that people didn't know about these days, but it was different. And so coaches came to Grand Forks, North Dakota to recruit female throwers. And yeah, if we want to give shout outs to names, they're Deesa Salander still is a coach today. One of my dearest friends went to Kentucky. Danny Parkus was at Grand Forks Central. She was older than me. She was the first time. My dad took me when I was a 7th grader to the state track meet, and I saw Danny win all 3. And that was where I still didn't really know what I was doing. And for anyone that I've coached in past years, or, you know, our daughters throw now, I mean, I threw in the 60s, like 60 feet as a 7th grader. I was not like a naturally like, wow, look at her throw that discus. But what I learned is it was just something, it was a new lane for me. And I think it's important in parenting in general, I certainly did this with you, is to give kids lots of opportunity to find their thing. And just because basketball was my dad's thing, which I love the sport of basketball. I love basketball and I enjoyed playing basketball. And I love being a basketball fan. But basketball was very much my dad's thing. And it was good for me to find my own thing and the way my parents supported me. And I had some early success at a young age. I went to a national AAU track meet with my track club. We used to fundraise. That was a great life skill, to go around to businesses and ask for donations to fundraise. And yeah, I went to a national AAU track meet and had success. And so then I think my name got onto lists, and it was just a different time in recruiting, and track and field was my love. And then, yeah, I played other sports as well. But again, probably looking at that from that experience, it just gave me the confidence going into being a parent, was expose your kids to a lot of different things and they can find their thing. And sometimes it might shift. So certainly I played by far the most basketball growing up. And the deal was we had to make 10,000 baskets on our driveway. And my dad didn't believe in a lot of travel teams or fancy things. It was different then too, but just like wear out a basketball on your driveway. And that's what we did. But then I started throwing.
It's really unique, that time of Grand Forks track and field. It's not the same today.
No.
But the amount of athletes that you were sending to the Division I level from a town of 50,000 people is incredible.
It is incredible. I think if we counted over the years, it would be in the 30s or maybe up to 40 female athletes. I want to shout out, there are great male athletes in there as well. It just happened to be more female. And I would say there was, why is it decreased? There was some coaching changes. Some of those coaches are still there, but I asked, shout out to Lee Baker, who still coaches there and was my shot put coach, was just a few years older than me, but was my shot put coach and still has contributed to helping our daughter, your sister Elizabeth. I asked, I'm like, what happened to all the female throwers? And there are more sports now. And so we in North Dakota didn't used to have softball, and that made a factor. So in the spring, also multi-sport athletes were just, we had more multi-sport athletes. You just went out for sports because it's what you did. And track and field, there was an event for any type of an athlete. So it made you a better athlete. We had girls basketball in the fall. I'd bring that back if I could. We had girls basketball in the fall and volleyball in the winter. And it made us an overall better athlete by doing track in the spring.
That is an interesting take. I'd be interested in hearing people's take on that, of switching, again, going volleyball in the winter, girls basketball in the fall. That would be an interesting conversation to have for a different day. But let's get back to track and field. You really progressed at a pretty quick rate and became one of the top throwers in the state. Give me just a quick rundown of the end of your high school career and recruiting and how that all shaped up to be.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was never the best thrower in the state, and I think I want to make sure that's clear. It was a different time. There was a different level of marks. It was just a different time. So I was never, people talk about, you always get better when you get older. So I was never the best. I always wanted to be better. And I had amazing people always a year older than me. So like Cassie Romold was a year older than me at Grand Forks Central. She went to Stanford. There's always somebody that was better. And that actually is a phenomenal environment
Yeah.
to be in.
You're always chasing somebody.
You're chasing somebody and the light is not just shining on you. And the marks were far. And we've seen a decline in that. And now it's kind of coming back up. But at the end, I think it's important to note. So at the end of my high school career, so you can envision, you can set goals, but at the end of my high school career, all of this happened at once. I was a pregnant high school senior. I was getting recruited by multiple schools. I had visits scheduled. I told my parents on my 18th birthday I was pregnant with you. And then I still went on all my visits, pregnant, not telling anybody other than my parents knew. And the night before, I didn't play high school volleyball in the winter anymore. I wanted to focus on track. The night before high school track season, practice was going to start. And my doctor obviously knew and had cleared me. And I was just a few months along, due in the late summer. The athletic director in Grand Forks Public School called our house. There was no cell phones other than maybe a bag phone in my dad's car. And called our house and spoke directly to me and told me that he had heard I was pregnant and that I couldn't come to practice. And that I wouldn't be able to be in track and field because he had heard I was pregnant and that wouldn't be safe, which that would be very illegal today to do that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, my mom's sister was an athletic director at a major high school in Minneapolis, and we got that resolved quickly. And we knew that couldn't happen. But that is just a different time. And, I was a girl that had never smoked anything. I'd never had a drink. I was not a party girl. I just had an older boyfriend, and I was pregnant my senior year of high school. And I had worked so hard for these big goals of my senior year. And then the other factor was record snowfall, 100-year record snowfall. And what ended up happening is we had a flood in my hometown, a record flood that really washed away our town and washed away our senior year in high school. And I didn't have a senior year of track and field. I didn't compete. And just days before, by the way, I was like 5 months pregnant standing on a dike throwing sandbags around. I was fully capable of throwing. And during that flood year, I was practicing. I had a lot of more hormones in me. I would have thrown farther.
We could have won a state championship.
We could have won a state championship.
And it got stripped away from us.
Oh, no. Somebody else won, and I'm happy they did. But no, what happened is you could have enrolled in a different high school. Sure. So all Grand Forks public schools shut down. The rule was you had to enroll in a different high school. And news also traveled very differently then. You had to read it in the newspaper or hear it on the news. But we went to the farm where we already had a place. And at some point, we heard that you had to enroll in a different high school and then you could compete. And at that point, I had already signed with Georgia. I had visited several schools. I kind of narrowed it down to Missouri or Georgia. And if I were to do it again, wish I would have also paid attention more to some other schools that I look at now and like, oh, I kind of wrote that school off. But I knew I was going to go to Georgia regardless. I had told Coach Babbitt at Georgia that I was having a baby, and he was like, yeah, this might seem like a really big deal to you, but like female athletes have babies in college. It's okay, and so I knew I was going to be okay. So I didn't compete my senior year, and then I just went to Georgia. And you've actually pointed it out to me, which I think I should note this, is that I have now watched my daughter, your sister, win state championships. And, she came out of nowhere in her 9th grade year and won a state championship in the discus. And her sophomore year won discus and shot, was runner-up in both this past year. So I've never saw that, but it's been and she's in a different class, smaller school, but it's been really fun. It's been more rewarding as a mom to be able to watch that than anything I would have done in high school. And so much happened during that time of my parents lost our home, our business, the flood happened, all that happened because of the flood. We moved full time to the farm. I was pregnant with you. I didn't really have a lot of time to feel sorry for myself. I just kept going and moved on.
Yeah. It is interesting that thought of, we have a lot of fun competing
Yeah.
and we've had a lot of success, but watching other people that you love have that success is so much more rewarding, I think. I feel so much more gratitude, and I, I get more nervous sitting in the stands than I ever did standing on the court. I'm sure that's probably the same with you.
Right. And I got to play for, and be an athlete under great coaches and programs. And I'm proud of where I've come from and honored actually that in my mid 40s, I still keep in touch with those teammates and coaches that were a part of those years for me. But it's really a short little chapter of life. And I would look back at that and say, just, I wish I would have worked a little harder in the weight room. I wish I would have done the 10,000 baskets on the driveway when I was in high school, like I did when I was younger. But again, you're just living high school and it feels like you're doing everything fun. And we had a swimming pool. I swam a lot in the summertime. We have 2 daughters that play high school golf now. And I just think I grew up from across the street from a public course and used to skip the park board golf lessons that my mom signed me up for every summer. Like I should have worked a little harder in those years because it's such a little chapter, but I had a lot of fun. And looking back now, I think I've instilled my life lessons, which were hard lessons, into my kids. And so I was able, because I became a mom, I went from like high school graduation.
Throw your cap.
Where I was 6 months pregnant, but nobody really knew because I'm 6 feet tall and could kind of hide the pregnancy thing. There was just rumors that Katie was having a baby.
She might be pregnant.
She might be pregnant. And then, the flood happened. So everyone had gotten washed away. So it's like we weren't in our not the people washed away, but their homes are washed away. So the people weren't in our neighborhoods. Nobody really saw one another again.
So then you had me.
I did.
In August, the August after you graduated, right?
Yes.
And so you had me, and then you went to Athens, Georgia.
I did. And that's an interesting story that, again, different time, but I decided, A, that I was going to have a baby, B, that I wanted to be a mom. And that's a decision as a teenager. There's a lot of taboo, and you know this, but I don't talk about it publicly a lot. I am a volunteer. Oh, sorry, I bumped the mic. I'm a volunteer at a pregnancy center because I want to come alongside women that were in similar situations. Every story is different, but I want to come alongside women and support them in those decisions. And I do that now. But I grew up in Grand Forks not knowing about other resources. And I grew up in a conservative Christian church that didn't come alongside me. I felt like I was wearing the scarlet letter.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you hadn't read the book, I felt very like I was wearing the scarlet letter. I wasn't proud, but my parents made me proud. And they really came alongside me and said, if you don't go to Georgia and you stay home to only be a mom, you may blame the pregnancy or the baby someday.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided, given like we're displaced from our home, my parents' business has been majorly impacted, and I'm having a baby. And they said, you go, we'll leave the baby here with us, and then we'll go back and forth. And that's what we did at the beginning. So we never went a month without coming back and forth. But my dad took me down. So I had you on the 20th of August, and then by the 10th of September, I look back at that. I had an emergency C-section, and then I went to Georgia to throw. Not my finest.
Just how you planned it out.
Yeah,
just how everyone sees their freshman year of college going.
Yeah. So I used to say before your accident, that September 10th of 97 was the hardest day of my life because I didn't want to go, and I didn't want to leave my baby. If you've ever had a baby, moms understand, but I left. And I went to Georgia, and I moved in, to Oglethorpe Hall. And then at Georgia, my teammates knew, she just had a baby, and she's here. But then there was another track team member who also had just had a baby. And she was from a suburb of Atlanta. But again, her baby was at home with her mom, too. And so I did have community, and you know this, but I ended up having an awesome on fire for Jesus roommate, which she got me right into Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So again, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes chapter at the University of Georgia has this like, oh, this is Katie. She just had a baby 3 weeks ago. And it was really hard on me. And my mom came down with you, and then I would come back here and we would go back and forth. My mom had one of her best friends that lived in the Atlanta area. So we went back and forth, and that's what we did. We didn't have social media then. There was no FaceTiming. So mom had recorded my voice on a cassette tape or something, and she would play my voice reading books to you. And so you just got to hear my voice all the time because there was no social media. So we just like, played cassette tapes.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
And so if you think about like the environment I was raised in, my parents just put me into this cocoon, if you will. And I look back now because we have a 17-year-old in this home and a 16-year-old. And I look back and I really thought I was a lot older and more mature than I was. Mm-hmm. But my parents let me make that decision and go to Georgia and compete. And I'm really thankful I did that.
So Georgia runs in your blood. Go dogs. Sick 'em.
Go dogs. Sick 'em.
Yeah, I grew up cheering for Georgia. Matthew Stafford and Noshawn Marino and Champ Bailey. Yeah, so you were teammates with Champ Bailey.
Yeah, he was on the track team my freshman year.
That's pretty cool. Were you guys the same age?
No, he's I think probably a little bit older, but I think it's important to note that, you know, I came back to North Dakota because I had a custody situation.
Yeah.
And so again, a conservative judge who did later apologize to me in his life thought that I should give up my scholarship at Georgia and stay in the state of North Dakota to raise my child and not bring you with me to Georgia. And we still have a good family friend that was our attorney and worked on my behalf. And we fought that and got it overturned in the Supreme Court of North Dakota. I could have gone back to Georgia, but Georgia held my scholarship for that year that I did that when I was 19, 20 years old. And there was no online school then. I had to send in assignments in manila envelopes and mail them to Athens, Georgia. And then went back and forth. But at that time, I had bulging lumbar discs, which is a super common thrower injury. And I knew by raising you then that year of back and forth that it would be better to raise you in North Dakota. And I enrolled at the University of North Dakota. And I always thought if I didn't go away to a major D1 school, I would come back. NDSU and UND, North Dakota's two universities I considered if I stayed close to home were in Fargo, North Dakota and Grand Forks, but Grand Forks was closest to the farm. So I thought I would go to NDSU, but UND, I called the track coach and I told him what I was doing. And obviously it's the fall and they didn't have any money. And he gave me a $600 scholarship. And I went to UND. Big money.
Big money.
Thank you, Dick Clay,
for
giving me a $600 scholarship. But yeah, there wasn't obviously the program or the coaching, and I was hurt. And then I just had this opportunity where former athletic director, former football coach at the University of North Dakota, I was waitressing at Dagwood's Bar and Grill, which was smoke-free. Back in the day, not everything was smoke-free, but this was smoke-free. So I waitressed there, and the athletic director came in for lunch and offered me a tuition waiver and $10 an hour, which was a lot of money for a single mom, and a tuition waiver. And I didn't have a scholarship like I had before. And so I took that and I worked as a marketing assistant in the athletic department. And that really took off for me. It transitioned me from, I don't just have to be an athlete, a college athlete. I can work on building my career while being a single mom. I think important to note though, like the University of Georgia was a place that I was at for a short amount of time, but it really formed me into who I am because I saw a much bigger world. And so I got to compete in the SEC. I was around people that were walk-ons, but also some of the most premier athletes in the world. Like we had people from Europe on our team, from Iceland and Sweden and Finland. And it exposed me to this larger world in a very short amount of time, being from a small state, a small school. And even though I came back to the University of North Dakota, which was home and the best place to raise you, my mom had instilled in me, always do what's best for the baby, and you're going to be just fine. And I think I've always done that. I knew that staying in the apartment it was called married family housing, like married family housing, like where married couples, there was no single moms really hanging, but single moms were also welcome. And, raising you there at Georgia, I thought I would go to law school. I thought I would stay there and compete. I mean, as a thrower, you think you're going to compete, and as a female, you'd want to compete until your early 30s if your body can hold up. But you really were the defining factor for me that changed all of that. And I think it was a blessing. Obviously, God wrote the story, and I've stayed in touch though. So just this past year, you have seen my college roommate, and we still keep in touch. You've gone to a Georgia track reunion with me. Mm-hmm. Those years were short, but very formative and really exposed me to a bigger world.
And someday I'm going to speak for the Georgia Athletics Department in some capacity. It's going to happen, and you're going to come with. It's going to be a very full circle moment, so I'm putting it out there. And Kirby Smart, if you ever hear this, I want to come talk to the Dogs. I'm just going to put that out there.
Because you love the Dogs.
I love the Dogs.
You do.
I've cheered for the Dogs for a long time. I've been heartbroken many times, but Stetson Bennett, thank you very much for winning me a national championship.
We have a picture probably somewhere of me throwing on the Georgia track with you in like a Bulldogs hat.
Yeah, we'll find it. We'll throw it up. That's a great picture.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the sit down. That's going to wrap up part one with our talk with Katie, aka my mom. I hope you guys enjoyed part one. Part two is going to be dropping tomorrow, so make sure to tune into that. But until then, y'all can get up now. Thanks for tuning in to the sit down.